Most people hear the word Germany and immediately picture the same polished dream, gleaming luxury cars, cities so clean they almost shine, and steins of beer raised under soft golden lights. But what if that image is only the surface? What if, just beyond the perfect streets and the famous efficiency, there are scenes that feel completely out of place inside one of the wealthiest countries on earth? You can walk from a quiet, rule-bound neighborhood straight into realities that stop you mid-step, places where order and struggle live side by side, and where more than 500,000 people sleep without a stable home, even when the temperature drops below freezing. That quiet, uncomfortable contrast is what brought us here. Because the stories that stay with you the longest are rarely the ones that match the postcard. Have you ever looked at a country known for success and wondered what remains hidden just out of frame? If you want to keep exploring these deeper, human sides of life around the world, subscribe to Us Homeless Stories. The next story is already waiting. 1. A country of clean surfaces and quiet rules. Germany sits at the geographic heart of Europe, sharing borders with 9 different countries, covering roughly 357,000 square kilometers and home to about 84 million people. It functions as a constant meeting point of languages, customs, and daily rhythms. Large international cities such as Berlin, Hamburg, and Munich carry global energy, while countless smaller towns maintain a quieter, cleaner, and more tightly ordered way of life. Everyday culture places strong value on structure. Recycling is taken seriously. Quiet hours are respected. Personal space is carefully observed. Even the simple act of lining up follows an unspoken sense of order. These small habits shape the rhythm of ordinary days, and often surprise first-time visitors who expect only efficiency and modernity. Language holds its own subtle traps. When someone offers water and you answer, "Thank you," it is often understood as a polite refusal. Saying "bitte" instead signals that you are accepting. These tiny differences can change the meaning of a simple exchange and remind newcomers that local codes run deeper than they first appear. What language do you speak, and which country are you watching from? Leave a comment below and say hello. Let's greet each other from different parts of the world. Two, German women and the quiet confidence of independence. Spend a few days in Germany, and a particular presence becomes noticeable. Many women favor a natural appearance, light makeup, clean style, and confident posture. They rarely seem to be performing attractiveness. Instead, they look focused on their own lives, with the quiet expectation that others keep pace. But many grow up managing school, work, and personal finances independently. That shapes relationships too. Conversations tend to be direct. Interest is usually clear, and lack of interest is equally clear. Long periods of mixed signals are less common. Splitting the bill is widely accepted because it keeps things equal and removes unnecessary pressure. Compliments work best when they feel genuine, while excessive flattery can seem insincere. Consistency, respect, and reliability usually matter more. People may open up slowly, but once trust is established, relationships often feel steady rather than dramatic. Germany's practical attitude toward the human body, visible in sauna culture and its straightforward approach to nudity, also plays a role. Confidence and self-respect often matter more than display, while style remains clean and functional. Would you find this direct and independent approach to relationships refreshing or challenging compared with what you are used to. 3. The red, light districts and a system built on rules. Walk through certain gates in Hamburg, and the atmosphere changes. During the day, the streets feel ordinary. People walk around, grab coffee, and follow their normal routines. Filming is usually allowed. Once night falls, the energy shifts quickly. Security may appear if cameras are pointed in the wrong direction, and anyone actively working is off limits for filming. What makes Germany different is the legal framework. Adult work is legal and regulated. People in the industry are not automatically pushed outside the law. Depending on registration and work status, they can access protections such as social insurance, health coverage, and unemployment benefits. The system treats the work more like a regulated occupation than a hidden activity. This structure appears in practical details. In some cities, including Bonn, licensed zones use ticket-style machines. Workers buy a shift ticket before starting, almost like buying a bus ticket. Operating without one can lead to warnings or fines. Designated areas help keep the activity contained and clearly regulated. For many visitors, this combination of legality and strict rules feels unusual, yet it reflects Germany's broader preference for order. Would you be curious enough to walk through one of these districts yourself, or would it be outside your comfort zone? If this surprised you, subscribe to Us Homeless Stories. We keep exploring the unexpected sides of life in cities around the world. 4. The dark side of Germany. Dark. A homelessness crisis in plain sight. Germany is Europe's largest economy, known for its strong industry, orderly cities, and high living standards. Yet the country has more than 500,000 people living without stable housing. When temperatures drop to 0.4 degrees Celsius, many of them have no choice but to sleep outside. This situation is not limited to one group. It includes older adults, people dealing with mental health challenges, and workers who came from Eastern Europe. It is not only those facing addiction or younger people on the street. The reality reaches across different ages and backgrounds. The contrast is hard to ignore. In the same country that produces Mercedes and BMW, and that maintains the famous Autobahn, people can be seen resting under bridges and in the corridors of major train stations. National wealth and individual hardship exist side by side. When a country this economically strong still has more than 500,000 people without a secure place to live, what does that say about the quieter struggles that continue beneath the surface? Five. Older adults caught in a loop that is hard to escape. Many older people in Germany share a similar quiet struggle. Their pension is no longer enough to cover both rent and the basic costs of daily life. When the gap grows too wide, some begin asking for help near large transit stations, especially around Berlin's Zoo station. After that, they often head straight to free food distribution points. The logic is simple and practical. The more meals they can get without spending money, the less they need to ask others for cash. The reasons that lead people here are rarely just one thing. Job loss later in life, family separation, health problems, struggles with addiction, and steadily rising housing costs appear again and again in their stories. What stands out most is that the majority of these older adults are not lazy and they are not criminals. They are ordinary people who found themselves trapped in a difficult cycle, one that is hard to break once it starts turning. The loop of unstable housing, limited income, and growing isolation keeps many of them stuck far longer than they ever expected. Have you or someone you know ever felt how quickly rising costs and a fixed income can turn daily life into a constant calculation? If this look at the quiet pressure facing older adults in Germany has stayed with you, subscribe to Us Homeless Stories. We continue to share the human stories that often remain hidden behind the bigger headlines. Six, how society responds and the scenes that startle visitors. In many German cities, the strong cultural focus on privacy shapes everyday reactions. People often keep a clear physical and emotional distance. Direct eye contact with those living without stable housing is frequently avoided, not necessarily out of indifference, but because personal space is taken seriously. At the same time, a steady support network remains active. Charities, soup kitchens, and winter outreach groups regularly provide hot drinks, blankets, and help with finding shelter, especially during colder months. Berlin can surprise first-time visitors. In some areas, trash builds up in public spaces, graffiti covers long stretches of wall, and people can be seen resting in doorways, under bridges, or near stations. Some travelers describe parts of the nighttime streets as zombie-like, reflecting the unexpected contrast inside a major European capital. One repeated request from people living outside is simple: do not film them. Many strongly dislike being turned into content. Respecting that boundary is one of the easiest ways to preserve basic dignity. After seeing both the distance people keep and the support that still exists, how should a city balance privacy with care for those living on the street? Seven, the English Garden, a soft pause in the middle of the city. In the heart of Munich lies the Englischer Garten, one of the largest urban parks in the world. Covering more than 900 acres, it is big enough that once you walk inside, the surrounding city buildings begin to disappear, and the space starts to feel like open countryside. Locals treat it as an extension of their own backyard. People run, cycle, picnic, nap, play music, and simply linger for hours as if time has slowed down. On warm days, it is common to see people stretched out on the grass, and women casually sunbathe or wade in the shallow streams, even though the park sits fully inside the city. A short walk away, the Eisbachwelle creates a standing wave in a narrow stream where surfers in wetsuits take turns year-round. Tourists often stop and stare, trying to process the fact that surfing is a normal part of a Tuesday in Munich. Under the large chestnut trees, traditional beer gardens fill with people sharing simple food and conversation in a relaxed, social atmosphere that feels rare for a major European capital. Does a green space this large and this freely used exist near you, or does it feel like something only possible in a different kind of city? If this peaceful corner of Munich made you want to see more unexpected sides of life around the world, subscribe to Us Homeless Stories. We keep exploring both the quiet places and the harder realities that most travel videos leave out. Eight, strange and memorable street foods. German street food moves easily between the familiar and the truly unusual. One of the most striking examples is Milbenkäse, also known as Maite cheese. It has been made for nearly 500 years in just 2 small villages in the Saxony-Anhalt region. The cheese is deliberately aged for months with tens of thousands of live cheese mites crawling across its surface. These microscopic creatures feed on the outer layer and release enzymes that slowly ripen the cheese. Over time, the rind shifts from yellow to reddish, brown, and, with longer aging, almost black. A single small piece can host around 50,000 mites, and they are eaten together with the cheese. The price is high, often more than $20 for less than 11 ounces, making it more expensive than many premium cheeses. Beyond this extreme specialty, everyday German street food remains hearty and direct. Bratwurst, the country's iconic grilled sausage, is cooked by the dozens over charcoal and served hot inside crusty bread with mustard or sauce. At Christmas markets, Rahmrot becomes a favorite, a flatbread baked until crisp and topped with cream, onions, bacon, and sometimes cheese. Raclette draws crowds as large wheels of cheese are heated until molten and then scraped directly onto potatoes, bread, or pickles. Baumkuchen, a traditional layered cake, is baked on a rotating spit so that each thin layer forms rings like the rings of a tree. In winter, Grünkohl mit Leberwurst offers a rich, filling dish of stewed kale cooked with fat, onions, and sausage. Together, these foods show a culture that is comfortable with both deep tradition and bold, unapologetic flavor. Which of these would you be most curious to try first, and which one would make you hesitate the longest? Nine, competitions that belong only here. Germany has a soft spot for contests that feel completely unique to its culture. In Bavaria, finger wrestling brings 2 people face to face at a wooden table. Each slips one finger into a leather loop, the referee gives the signal, and both pull with full strength. The goal is simple: drag the opponent's hand across the table. Matches end quickly, but the intensity is real. Just as unusual is the Big Nose Championship. Contestants must meet minimum measurements before entering, and winners are decided by combining nose length and width. Some participants even admit they try to make their noses look larger before the event. Then comes the World Beard and Mustache Championship in Bavaria. Competitors are judged across categories, ranging from natural beards to carefully styled shapes and elaborate designs that turn facial hair into sculpture. In Ludwigsburg, pumpkins take center stage. Every year, more than 500,000 appear in huge displays shaped like animals, buildings, and fantasy figures. One highlight is the pumpkin boat race, where giant hollowed pumpkins become single-person boats. Participants paddle across a lake, trying to stay upright until the finish. Another playful event on the Neckar River releases thousands of rubber ducks into the water. People attach their names to a duck and watch from the bank as they race toward the finish. These competitions show a culture willing to celebrate the unusual with complete seriousness. Which would you actually try? Finger wrestling, the Big Nose Championship, or paddling a giant pumpkin across a lake? Ten, rules that feel uniquely German. Beyond the larger systems that shape German life, Smaller and often surprising regulations quietly influence everyday behavior. In many homes and public restrooms across the country, men are expected to sit down rather than stand. The practice is framed simply as respect for shared cleanliness and consideration for others who use the same space. Signs reminding people of this expectation are common, and some even include clear illustrations. Real court cases have supported reductions in security deposits when standing caused damage to bathroom floors, showing that the rule is taken seriously rather than treated as a polite suggestion. The same preference for clear boundaries appears in digital life. Unauthorized downloading of movies or music can lead to fines that reach thousands of dollars per file. Internet providers are able to trace activity, and the fine is sent to the person whose name appears on the internet contract, regardless of who actually clicked the download. In Germany, watching something for free can quickly become one of the more expensive decisions a person makes. These detailed rules sit alongside the country's broader culture of order and predictability. Whether they involve bathrooms or broadband, the underlying idea remains consistent. Shared spaces and shared systems work better when everyone follows the same clear expectations. Do these kinds of detailed everyday rules make a society feel more respectful and organized to you, or do they feel overly strict? The Autobahn and its opposite extreme. Certain stretches of the German Autobahn are famous for having no mandatory speed limit. The network stretches roughly 8,080 miles, yet only about 1/4 allows unrestricted driving. Near cities, curves, construction zones, and busy areas, limits still apply. Private cars also pay no tolls, while the system is funded through fuel taxes and vehicle ownership fees. German driving culture becomes especially clear during emergencies. When accidents or heavy congestion appear, cars shift left and right to create a corridor for rescue vehicles. Running out of fuel, however, is considered preventable. Because sudden stops are dangerous on high-speed roads, drivers can face fines and towing costs. At the opposite extreme sits Spreuerhofstrasse in Reutlingen, officially recognized as the narrowest street in the world. It measures less than 13 feet long and narrows to about 12 inches at its tightest point. Taller people may even need to duck beneath the roof gutters. The same country that builds some of the fastest roads on Earth also preserves a passageway barely wide enough to squeeze through. What does that contrast say about German culture? If this surprised you, consider subscribing to Us Homeless Stories as we explore more unexpected sides of life around the world. 12. Festivals that fill the calendar. Germany's year is marked by festivals that temporarily transform entire cities. Oktoberfest in Munich is the most famous. For more than 2 weeks, massive beer tents run by historic breweries fill with people, traditional music plays for hours, and servers carry multiple 1-liter mugs at once. Outside, carnival rides and games run from morning until late night. When Oktoberfest ends, the energy moves to Cologne for Carnival. The 6-day celebration begins with women playfully cutting men's ties, a sign that normal rules are on hold. Streets fill with colorful costumes, music, and parades. The highlight is Rosenmontag, when large processions roll through the city with sharp, humorous satire. In autumn, Berlin's Festival of Lights turns major landmarks into glowing art installations for about 10 days through projection mapping and creative displays. When winter arrives, Christmas markets take over historic squares across the country. Wooden stalls sell handmade crafts, roasted chestnuts, and warm drinks, while lights and quiet music create a softer, more reflective mood. Each festival builds its own temporary community, some loud and overflowing, others calm and glowing, showing a side of German life that balances order with celebration. Which of these would you most want to experience? The energy of Oktoberfest, the playful chaos of Cologne Carnival, the glowing art of the Festival of Lights, or the quiet warmth of a Christmas market? If these celebrations made you curious for more, subscribe to Us Homeless Stories. We keep exploring both the bright and the harder sides of life in cities around the world. 13. The everyday cost of living. Living in Germany is rarely described as cheap, yet many people who settle here notice something else. The costs often feel more predictable than in many other places. In major cities like Berlin, Munich, and Hamburg, a simple one-bedroom apartment usually costs between $800 and $1,400 a month. Munich tends to sit at the higher end because demand remains strong. Move outside the largest centers and the same apartment may drop closer to $600, changing the monthly budget significantly. Daily spending follows a similar pattern. A basic meal at an inexpensive restaurant generally costs $12 to $15, while a mid-range dinner for one person lands around $20 to $30. Grocery shopping is where many residents save money. Discount chains such as Aldi and Lidl make it possible to cover a week of ordinary food for roughly $60 to $80 with careful shopping. Public transportation is efficient, but not cheap. A monthly pass in larger cities often costs between $70 and $100, which helps explain why bicycles remain so popular. Utilities for an average apartment, including electricity, heating, water, and internet, typically fall between $180 and $250 a month. Health insurance is mandatory. So many medical expenses are already included in regular contributions, instead of arriving as unexpected bills. Taken together, Germany is not inexpensive, but the costs are relatively structured. Housing, food, transport, and utilities often fit into a system that makes monthly planning easier and reduces financial surprises. Which part of Germany's cost of living surprised you most? Rent, groceries, or transportation? If this closer look at daily expenses was useful, subscribe to Us Homeless Stories. Your support helps us keep exploring how ordinary people manage life in cities around the world.